Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I don't do this program by myself. Well, except for today. Today is one of those odd days, and we've only had a couple of these where both Mike and I were not at our home locations. For him, location Bravo. For me, it would be the Uncommon Sense Media Group studios in Sacramento, California. So Mikey is actually still in the air, so he is getting some fly time in. Meanwhile, I am here. I am in Anaheim, California, over here by Disneyland. I'm here for the California Republican Party Convention, which is going to be taking place here. Yes, there are Republicans in California. I would happen to be one of them. As well as, there happen to be more Republicans in California than, just about any other, not just about, any other state in the country. Folks, Mikey's still in the air. I'm here with you. We're going to be talking about the news today. But if we're going to have some interaction, I'm going to need your help. So do me a favor. Go ahead. Shout out there in the comment section, however you're watching us. If you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube at 2A News or at the California Republican Assembly, at Arms Room Radio, or even at the Rundown. Please make sure to give a shout out if you got something that you want to say on any of the news items that we will be discussing today. Please make it a point to give a shout out. Also, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same. Folks, this is the place where these conversations are going to be taking place. This is going to be the spot to be for the next half hour. So please make sure you're reaching out to folks and letting them know what's going down. All right, with that, let's get into today's news topics. The first one is, and I know you guys probably saw this because it's the title of the piece today, or at least of today's episode, and it has to deal with whether or not firearms are actually the leading cause of death for children. And needless to say, the mainstream media is jumping all over themselves. They're falling all over themselves in order to comment, in order to show that, look, guns are the number one cause of death for young people, or for children, right? And they can notice, they keep saying children in the headlines of these articles. Perfect example in here, I'll pull this one up for you. This is NBC News. So you know that they're, we know that they have their biases. So children that they're counting. In fact, what they do is they include them, mostly what they refer to them as young people, right? So number one, these are not teenagers. Many of them are not teenagers, because it includes those who are 18 all the way up to age 24. Now, if you stop and you think about who is most likely to be involved in gang activity. And once again, all you have to do is look at the FBI crime statistics, and it'll tell you who's involved mostly in gang activity or that sort of criminal activity. And it's going to be young males, in particular, ages 16 to 25, or actually up to 30. But so what they've done is, at least in terms of these numbers, they've included a huge swath of people. Now they're calling them firearm deaths, but really what many of these are gang deaths. What many of them are drug deaths. What many of these are basically homicides. So in other words, there's an underlying reason, once again, and as we always tell you, it's the tool, right? We keep telling you that they keep wanting to go back and they keep wanting to blame the tool as the quote-unquote problem. Which is highly frustrating, because ultimately what you're doing when you blame the tool and you don't actually focus on what the actual cause is, then you're not dealing with root problems. It's like saying that there's a problem with drunk driving because there's too many cars on the road. No, There's drunk driving because you have people who have chosen to go and consume alcohol and then get behind the wheel of a car, right? That's what we're trying to do. So what we're trying to do is reduce that combination, right? So in this particular case, it's not so much that you have that there are too many quote unquote firearms. The problem is that you have too many people who have decided that if I have a beef with somebody, the number one way in which I can address that beef is to go and shoot them or to go and kill them. And by the way, if we got rid of guns, they would then stab them, because we're seeing that happening now in Great Britain, to the point where they're now instituting knife laws against certain knives or possession of certain knives. So we know this to be the case. But once again, the numbers once again are not to be lost on these individuals. Just want to give a quick shout out to Texas Surplus Pro. Thank you so much for shouting out. They're watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. But see, that's the thing, folks, is we cannot allow them to continue to tell these lies, because when they tell the lies, this information, this data is going to wind up in a committee hearing. And in that committee hearing, they're going to say, we've got to do something. And that something is going to be infringe on the rights of law-abiding citizens to be able to defend themselves. That's what the something that they are in the end going to be looking to do. That's what it's going to wind up being. And the only people, quite frankly, who are going to wind up being held accountable for this are law-abiding citizens, are you and me, because we're now going to be further victimized. We're now going to be put in a situation where there's a greater opportunity that we're going to wind up being victimized by these very same individuals who are going to come out and seek to, what's the word I'm looking for? They are going to seek to victimize us. They're going to seek to take away our property now that our right to keep and bear arms has been taken away from us. So anyway, that is story number one. The fact that it's supposedly the leading cause of death, but you and I, well, we know better, don't we? Of course we do. All right, moving right along, racism at the ATF. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Mr. Racist David Chipman didn't get his job there, the job that he wanted. Because in case you did not remember or you did not know, David Chipman, who basically was the ATF former employee from years ago, turned gun control activist, had publicly stated that he believed that black agents were cheating on the exam in order to become agents, because they clearly were not capable of doing well enough on the exam in order to be able to become agents, or in order to be promoted. Anyway, all that having been said, his name was pulled out of nomination. Well, there have been actually a few instances. So there have been a few instances where they've had an acting ATF director. And that acting ATF director, his name, let me find him right here. His name is Marvin Richardson. All right, so Marvin Richardson he's been with the ATF for more than 30 years. He is not a politician. He is not a politico. He is basically he's a career employee who focuses on enforcing the law. Well, there's a group out there. There's a group out there called the National African American Gun Rights Association, and this organization is wondering why they keep passing this individual over for promotion. Now, once again, this is the second time that this individual has served as the director over there, as the acting director over there at the ATF. Now, you know me. If you know me, you know that I'm not one to throw race or racism around. I find this amusing largely because this is exactly the sort of tactic that the left and the Biden administration would normally try to subject a Republican to. It's just nice to see that the shoe can fit on the other foot. But with that, they bring up a great point. Here's a guy who has more than 30 years experience. And by the way, this piece is put together once again over at The Reload. Stephen Gutowski, a good friend, good friends of The Rundown, good friends of me and Mike, phenomenal guy. But anyway, they point out that he's been acting director. This is the second time he's been there. And he's not saying, look, we're not saying that with certainty that he's been passed over twice for the directorship. It's been because of race. But when you have a president who has supposedly, says, well, if you don't vote for him, well, then if you don't know if you're going to vote for him, well, then you ain't black. One would think that when you have someone who's been acting director not once, but twice, you would consider him, especially once again, this is a career employee. This is someone who's this is not someone who is a politician. This is someone who's going to be there to actually, do exactly what the ATF is supposed to do, which is administer our gun laws, which is supposed to be helping to make it so that law-abiding citizens are able to exercise their fundamental rights. Why wouldn't you allow this individual to be there? It's going to be real interesting to see what happens what the response is of the Biden administration when it comes to these particular accusations. Because, well, to be quite frank with you, they've got some merit. Why isn't this guy? Why not? Why not him? Why do you have to try and find, once again, another activist, another anti-gun activist out of the state of, I believe he's Ohio. That's right, out of the state of Ohio. This is the person that they've now nominated in order to run the ATF. What's the matter? Is brother not good enough for you? Right? Someone who's a career employee with 30 years, is he not good enough to be able to run the department? I mean, he was good. He was good enough he was good enough to be made acting director twice. One would think that would, in no small way, qualify him to be acting director again, or at least the director. I mean, I figure if you can do the acting job twice, you probably ought to be able to do the regular job full time. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. One would think. Anyway, interesting story. I know you guys don't get caught up on the whole race or racial thing, but once again, it is a good opportunity to once again turn the tables on them when it comes to issues like that. But the other thing is, that's the type of guy, though, we should be looking for. Once again, a career employee, someone who knows and understands the ATF, someone who's not focused on the politics, someone who's not an activist, but someone who is actually going to run the department and run it well. Just saying. All right, moving right along. There's another big wave coming. If you guys have not been paying attention, at our southern border in 2021, we broke all kinds of records when it comes to people entering the southern border. 1.7 million people that we know of illegally entered our country at the southern border. At one point, there were over 200,000 a day were coming in. Well, we all know, by the way, that number not only has it not gone down, but that number is continuing to expand. So much so to the point that they are anticipating, well, a much bigger swing when it comes to the number of folks, a much bigger number when it comes to the number of folks who are going to be entering the country via our southern border. And this piece in the Washington Examiner points out that they are expecting about 2.1 million people. Now, by the way, just also to be clear, these are the ones we know about. These are not as the department has deemed them to be, the gotaways, right? These are not the gotaways that have entered into the country. These are in fact the folks. These are the folks that we know about. You forgive me for just a second because Mike has joined the program, and I am working to get him plugged in here. Mike, my friend, how are we doing today?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just got to make sure I got you kind of echoing a little bit. And bam, now I've got you off. And we have got you on here now, sir.
Well, very cool. I could Like to hear you, guys. I wanted to be able to check. I apologize for not being here the whole show with you.
Oh, no worries, sir. No worries. Look, hey, brother got to pay the bills, right?
Say it again.
I said, brother's got to pay the bills.
No, I'm losing you, Craig, but I apologize for that. So, again, I just want to be able to check in and say hi to you and everybody out there at the California Republican Assembly today.
Well, we're having a good time out here. Hold on, let me. Bam! Now you should have me back. Does not sound like you got me back. Well, this is the fun part about doing this sort of stuff and doing it remote and remotely is because we get the joy of trying to figure all this stuff out. But I'm going to get you plugged in here real quick, Mikey, sir. Let's look for that. Look for that. Rendezvous dashboard, and then. All right, can you hear me now, Mikey?
There you go. I got you now.
Bam! Okay. I knew we would figure this puppy out. Anyway, so I was just talking about, I was just getting into the fact that we're going to be looking at 2.1 million new permanent visitors entering through our southern border next year or this year.
Yeah, visitors, right? It makes it sound like we welcomed them and did the proper paperwork.
No, we don't do stuff like that, man. We don't do proper paperwork. Let's clarify. These are the people that supposedly we have done paperwork for, or at least we know they're here. It doesn't address the people who, by the way, we know they should not be here.
Yeah,
nothing.
Absolutely right. This is just another crushing blow to the economy, right? We're going to have to put up with 2.1 million more people that don't have a support system, don't have jobs, or but they'll definitely be putting their hands out for checks, and the Democrats will clearly write them the checks and put it in their hands because that's how you buy votes.
Well, exactly, and that's exactly what they're looking to do, and that's why this whole, mailing ballots out to everybody, especially when you have, for example, in California, where we registered tens of thousands of people who were not supposed to be registered to vote in our through our motor vote. I'm sorry, hundreds of thousands through our motor voter program, and then tens of thousands of them actually voted. But that's what happens when because someone's like, well, they mailed me a ballot, so I just assumed I was supposed to vote. How am I supposed to know? It's not like I'm a citizen.
Exactly right. Why not? Why not? Craig, I don't know if you caught today, since we're talking about what's going on the border, down on the Texas border, one of the Texas Army National Guard soldiers died today jumping into the Rio Grande trying to save some of the migrants that were coming across and were struggling. So we actually lost a citizen soldier today over this whole immigration issue.
Well, I'm only surprised it hasn't happened sooner. I mean, and for a lot of people, they think, a big part of their job has been trying to keep people from illegally entering the country. But quite frankly, a bigger part of their job, quite frankly, has been saving lives. I mean, not just saving people who have, not just saving people who are drowning. In this particular case, you had an issue where someone was drowning and they had to save them. But they're finding people in the desert. I mean, people who are basically left in the desert with little to no water, left out there by some coyote. A big part, Mike, I was just saying, I lost you there for a quick sec, but I was just saying that a big part of their job has been saving lives, has been whenever there's, people out there, whether it's in the desert or whether it's in the water, in the river or anything like that, they save a lot of people's lives who are trying to enter into the country.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And that's what happened here. That's where we lost this citizen soldier. Trying to help do what was right to protect, and it didn't matter to him at this point, legal or illegal. There's somebody in dire straits that needs assistance, and he jumped in the water, and now we're locked. If we had a proper procedure for people to come through the border and process, this wouldn't be going on.
Well, no, exactly. Well, and by the way, the immigration needs to be addressed. But this whole, and by the way, number one, we need to address the issue of illegal immigration. But before we can of legal immigration. But before we can do that, we've got to address people just trying to just come into the country illegally. Because like I've made this comment. My father-in-law and my wife all immigrated to this country, and they get livid at the idea of people entering the country or coming to the United States and basically cutting in line. When they know how much it took and how hard of a job it was for them to be able to come into the country and the sacrifices that they had to make, what good does that do when you then just say, yeah, no, we're just going to let anybody come in. We're going to let you, not only we're going to let you cut in front of the line, but in places like California, we're actually going to encourage you through programs and through money and through all of this stuff we're going to give you for cutting in line. Through all of that, yeah, now we're gonna make it make it a benefit to you for you to cut in line, and that just seems to be how they roll, and it is beyond frustrating to see, because like I said, I've always said we are a nation of immigrants, but we also are a nation of laws, and more importantly, we are a nation of laws. We would not be able to function as a nation of immigrants, people coming from all different parts of the world, if we did not have the rule of law. And if we start undermining the rule of law, then we're not going to be able to function very positively as a nation. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but that's basically where I'm at. Looks like we've lost Mikey again. We'll see if he comes back in a little bit. But with that, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to our next story. Now, I think you guys know this is beyond frustrating, because this is kind of the way the left works. So we all know that, there are a lot of people who believe that, you know what, whatever gender you are or you believe yourself to be, that's your choice. You have every right. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to be, and you want to live and walk, fine, go ahead. But it's when everyone else is then forced to recognize that, or to honor that, or to basically, now we're going to change everything around and change around definitions of what the word is in order to make it fit some narrative, right? In order to make it fit so that someone feels comfortable. Well, then you get to the point where you want us to honor it through our tax dollars, right? We've already seen it happen with abortion. Where once again you see the left wants, they want government funding of abortion. In California, in fact, they're looking to make it an abortion sanctuary. I know once again, I know this isn't an abortion show, but we're conservative views. So just so you know, I know we talk 2A, I know we talk guns, but conservative views go along with that. But now you have federal prisons. A judge has basically ordered that federal prisons will now have to pay for the first ever gender reassignment surgery. That's right. A transgender inmate, they call it gender affirming surgery, meaning they believe they are that gender. We are going to affirm that by doing cosmetic surgery and removing certain parts and adding certain parts. Not real parts, they're mainly going to be for show, but we're going to do this so that, you feel like, you are now wholly that. Well, once again, I know people out there, some people are going to agree with me, some people are going to disagree with me, some people who don't believe in this are going to agree. But here's the thing, I don't think tax dollars ought to be going to pay for this. Especially since the parts that are key here that we're talking about, yeah, they're not parts that are going to be able to be usable in prison anyway. At least they're not supposed to be using these parts in prison, right? Right? Why does it matter if you have an innie or an outie if you're not supposed to be having sex in prison anyway? I don't know. Just makes a little bit too much sense to me. I'm kind of funny like that. That whole logic and critical thinking thing. But anyway, so that's something that's going to actually be happening. And by the way, this is going to be federal prison. Now, I'm going to guess that they're not going to be opposing this because, once again, it's the Biden administration. So I'm guessing that they're not going to be opposing it. I wish they would, because once again, this is using tax dollars to push an ideology or an ideology, quite frankly, that most Americans don't believe in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say it. I know we have some folks who watch the show who are from the LGBTQ community, and I'm sorry, but no, I'm sorry, but taxpayers should not be paying for this. Period. There are a lot of things we shouldn't be paying for, and this I will put on the list amongst them. Anyway, just my 2 cents. All right, with that, we're going to move on to our parting shot of the day. This is an interesting one, and it kind of goes back to play to the whole the first thing was it the first thing? The second one, where we talk about race and racism and all of that fun stuff. This guy from Germany decides to post on Twitter. He says, "As a German, I will never understand how on earth this kid could walk on an open street with a gun." And then Amiri King wrote, "Sure would have been a game changer for the Jewish community." Oh, that is hilarious. You got to love this stuff. Yeah, for those of you who do not know, yes, they disarmed the Jewish community and the citizenry as a whole. But yes, they disarmed them because that is one of the first things that a totalitarian dictator does when they want to subjugate people. When they want to commit mass genocide, the first thing that they seek to do is disarm them. Because obviously an armed citizenry is a lot more difficult to subdue than an unarmed, or than an unarmed citizenry. I don't know, kind of simple, kind of easy, kind of obvious. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's rundown. We very much appreciate you guys liking the program. We appreciate you liking and sharing. Want to remind you, please make sure to visit Guerrilla Machining, Grid Defense, and the California Republican Assembly. These are the folks that make it possible, right? They make it possible for us to be able to be on here with you, talking to you about this stuff. So if you enjoy the program, or I don't care if you don't enjoy, well, I do care if you don't enjoy it, but if you don't enjoy the program, I don't care. Visit the sponsors. I'm telling you, you'll like their products, you'll like their programs, you'll like what they do. And when you decide to send them a few bucks, make sure you tell them the guys over at The Rundown sent you. With that, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing and telling everybody about The Rundown, where you can discuss 2A news and conservative views. Talk to you guys again on Monday.